Wait a minute. We don't use tape anymore, do we? All right. And as usual, we'd like to talk about the pillar programs that we have here in this as part of the Citizen Corps program. And so first, I saw Kimberly Hornberger from Sandy Fire. Do you want to come up and talk about CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team?
All right. Hi, everyone. I know most of you, so that's exciting. For those of you that don't know me, though, name is Kimberly, work at the fire department, and we do the CERT, Community Emergency Response Team classes, which we love. We just graduated our last class, and I see a couple people here from that. So that makes, I believe, 2,500 people that have gone through our CERT program since we started. So that's pretty awesome. Our next class that we have coming up, I did put a couple of flyers there in the back for anyone that wants to see it. It starts August 21st, and it goes until October 2nd. They're every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. For those of you that have been, you can attest that they're pretty fun, or at least I hope they are. If not, you can come and just make fun of me and Lenore. So that's always fun. Also, for those of you that have been through CERT before, please come back. We love it when people come back and renew their skills and remember what's happening, or come back as a victim for our mock drill. Any questions about that or any of the CERT? Okay.
And next, from Neighborhood Watch and Volunteers and Police Service, we're going to have Mike Applegarth. He's one of our Volunteers and Police Service. Come up and tell a little bit about their program.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I won't take too much of your time. I know some of you are familiar with the VIPS program. But two key things to remember about VIPS. If there's something going on in your neighborhood, you can contact the police department and report that and request an extra patrol. And officers will respond during their discretionary time and try to squeeze in those extra patrols. And then the Volunteers and Police Service supplement that. We have 2 vehicles. There's 19 of us that go out as volunteers, and we just act as an extra set of eyes and ears. We don't try to solve any problems. If we see anything that looks out of place, we go on the radio and call dispatch and get an officer to your area. So that's one thing, is the extra patrols. And then the last thing I'll leave you with, if you're heading out of town on vacation, you can get on the police department's website, and on the left-hand navigation under Other Resources, again, on the left-hand navigation under Other Resources, there's a Vacation Watch link. You can get on there. There's a form that you fill out with your contact information, how long you're going to be gone, a description of your home, what vehicles should or should not be parked in your driveway, whether somebody's feeding your cats, and the VIPs will come out and while you're gone and check your locks, ring the doorbell, make sure nobody answers that shouldn't answer the door. We'll even walk around the rear of the property if there's gate access, and just check everything out, make sure your windows are closed and everything looks the way it should be. So remember VIPs for the extra patrols and your vacation watches, and we'd be happy to serve you. Are there any questions about that? Volunteers in Police Service. We're not police officers. We're just trained volunteers that go out and act as the eyes and ears, extra set of eyes and ears for the police department. And we have 2 mobile watch vehicles. They're marked vehicles, and we'll go out and just check things out and try to supplement the work the officers are already doing. You can get on the Sandy City Police website. There is a link for the Volunteers and Police Service, and as well as the link to the Vacation Watch form that you can have them fill out. Police Department, yeah. If you just Google Sandy City Police, it'll come up. Yes. Absolutely. We go through 2-week training program, at least in the beginning. They do a full background check on us, and we have monthly meetings where we do monthly training as well to keep fresh on our radio skills and our observation skills and things like that. So they keep tabs on us, make sure that we're doing the right thing for you. Great question. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, don't take that paper. That one's mine. So, you said feed your cat, things like that. Do you guys come feed my cat? Do I have to be on vacation for that?
No, we won't feed your cat, but if you have a neighbor kid come over, we'll make sure it's only the neighbor kid and not somebody else. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you. Let's see. Medical Reserve Corps. Sonia.
Oh, thank you. In conjunction with the Utah Shake House. Okay.
Is that working?
I don't think it is. 1, 2, 3 testing.
I can hear it.
You can, okay.
Hold it right up to your mouth. Hold it right up there.
My voice will be very. On April the 19th, Granite Technical Institute at 2500 South State Street at 8 a.m. And then on April the 21st, the Salt Lake Marathon aid station at 7 a.m. And she doesn't say where that aid station is located. But the Medical Reserve Corps is looking for volunteers to help. What they do is train you how to you all arrive at a catastrophic event. They train you how to do the triage and get you going so that you know exactly what you're doing, and it won't be a disorganized type of thing. And they love to have people with medical backgrounds, but they'll take anyone because they can use it for whatever. My voice carries. No. I didn't do it.
So what she was talking about is the Medical Reserve Corps, and the things that she talked about are events that they're looking for volunteers to come out and participate in, people that would like to be part of the Medical Reserve Corps for that. And that same information is, I believe, the dates and the event are on the agenda. If you look at, and if you can call Michelle Mulcahy on there, and she can give you more details on that if you're interested in that, as well as the questions about the volunteers and police service. There's contact information on the agenda, and there's some agendas in the back there, and it's for contact for Amy Bryant, who's over those programs. Now, Sandy Amateur Radio Club.
So my name is Kent England. Barbara is here. She's our president of our club. If you've got one of the agendas, we're on there with our phone numbers. You can reach out to us with questions. A couple quick announcements. On Thursday, the fourth Thursday of the month, upstairs in where we normally meet in the community, where we used to meet. I'm sorry. We're going to have our club meeting, and we're actually going to have Jeff come and talk about emergency communications and how that's all going to try to work together. One of the things we're trying to do as an amateur radio club is get a communications specialist in all of the communities. We have a little more than half of them, so we need some more. So people need to get their ham radios. They need to get their ham radio license and get in the group so that we have a backup plan, backup communication plan. Any questions? If you do, our names and phone numbers are on here. How many of you have ham radio licenses? Raise your hand. Very good, very good. The rest of you, we'll look forward to having you join us soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Ken. All right. Just a few reminders. The Great Utah Shake-It on April 19th. The city will be doing exercise here at all the city facilities. I don't know if you guys have any things going on at your places of work, or if you guys I know that people do it in their homes and whatnot, but just a reminder for that. And of course, the Utah Prepare Conference in September. Information is there on your agenda. Those of you that attended, I can't remember if it was last month or month before last, we did Stop the Bleed training. The Alta Hospital, or Alta View, is going to be offering that. The trauma section up there will be offering a class in that, and that training is on your agenda as well. It'll be on the 23rd of April from 6 to 7 up in the Ochre room there at the hospital. And there's been some talk about reverse 911. We talked about it a little bit last month. I know, put the information down on the agenda there where you can go out to the Valley Emergency Communications Center, to their website, and follow the prompts there, and you can register your cell phone for reverse 911 calls. It goes automatically for landline, but not too many people have landlines anymore. But if you go out and register, you need to register your cell phone if you want to receive those calls. So if we have a disaster in your area, we can say, all right, or a gas leak, or just anything that we can contact everybody in that location and let them know. Even, so you might be up in Salt Lake City, but we can call, you'll get pinged and say, hey, there's an emergency in your neighborhood, and you need to either evacuate or do whatever the instructions tell you to do. But if you go out there, follow those directions, and you can get your cell phone registered for that, to receive that information. Yes, ma'am. It's just for the people that work here. What we will do, we'll do the drop, cover, hold on exercise. We'll practice our evacuation of the building, accountability, and then afterwards we call them yellow hats or lifeguards. They're people that handle the evacuation of the different sections, departments, and then afterwards I'll meet with them and we'll talk about what went right, what went wrong. Did people leave? Did they say I'm too busy? Kind of stuff. Make sure that we're exercising properly. All right. I went through that really quick. Are there any questions? No question. With no questions, I'm going to turn the time over to Lesha Earl, and she's from Transjordan Landfill. She's their education outreach person, and she will be talking about things at the landfill. And we also have with us tonight Paul Browning, who is the Assistant Director of Public Works, and they're the ones that would be handling the response for debris we're talking about debris management here in a disaster, and they would be coming. They're the ones that do the debris pickup in front of your homes, things like that. Those are exercises for the inevitable. So let me see if I can open this up for you here. Where does it go? Yeah, I'll let you do it. How's that? I'll just turn this over to you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you so much for inviting me out to this, Jeffrey. He has been in great contact with the landfill, and you are in good hands with Jeffrey as your emergency manager. He has worked closely with us to develop the plan that we're still working on, and we are in the process of also working with the Utah Division of Emergency Management so that we're all on the same page and we understand what's going to happen in the event of an emergency. No one hopes for an emergency or any sort of catastrophic event, but should it happen, we want a solid plan in place, and we want the people to know ahead of time how to respond, how to react, what to expect, and that's why we're here tonight. So the first thing I wanted to show you, the reason why this is called end of life, is we're talking about the cycle of products. The life cycle of products, eventually everything has an end of life, and that's when it ends up in our landfill. We receive all of the trash that is sent to us from Sandy, and we are your landfill as well as the landfill for 6 other cities in the south end of the valley. The reason why we have so much trash and we are almost full as a landfill is because we've worked off of a linear model, meaning that we will take material, raw material, make a product out of it, use it one time, and then dispose of it. And this is the model that we've had for generations. And because of that, we've reached near capacity at our landfill. Our capacity is set for 14.1 million tons of waste, and we are at 9.3 million. Currently. Just above that, this is fiscal year of 2016. And if you look at the numbers, you can see we buried 333,000 tons of waste in 2016 fiscal year. This is our landfill area. The yellow outline just shows you the area that we currently use for different portions of the landfill. The first area of the landfill with that white liner that you can see to the right of the yellow outline is cell 6. Cell 6 is our second to last cell. We are currently excavating our very last cell. Once that last cell is full, we're closed as your landfill. And we also have an administration building in red, and next door to the administration building, we create electricity. There's 4.8 megawatts being put on the grid. It's the city of Murray that benefits from that. And we also have a public convenience center. If you ever have something large that you need to get rid of, it doesn't fit in your trash can, you bring it to our public convenience center. You can be on concrete the entire time. You don't go down to where the big garbage trucks go. You stay where it's comfortable to be. And then our green waste area where we are able to process green waste like yard clippings into compost. So this kind of shows you the outline of where we're at. We currently are working on cell 6A is where your garbage is being landfilled, and we are excavating cell 6B. This is what the solid waste operations look like. We have a giant machine that's heavier than a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. Its whole job is to crush the garbage. It goes 4 passes over the garbage and crushes it to its maximum. And so we have more room in the landfill. The green waste program, of course, it takes 3 to 4 months to compost. And we also provide compost and wood chips to the city free of charge. So a lot of the city parks and schools, you'll see the compost or wood chips from our facility. It's also open to the public, very affordable. And of course, the household hazardous waste and public convenience center. This is the electricity plant I was telling you about. When we close a cell, when we go over the top of it with the liner, which includes a plastic liner, high-density polyethylene, and also a clay liner, they put in wells to control the landfill gas, and it's the landfill gas that creates the electricity. And of course, Murray City is the one that benefits from that. You have to have a sponsor to be put on the grid, and Murray City was the city that stepped up and said, we'll sponsor it. So this is the landfill in construction. You can see the 3 different layers that we use in our landfill liner. The gray area that you see that's just a small square, that is the clay mat. The clay mat works just as well as 2 feet of compacted clay. So that if anything ever happened to our plastic liner, once it gets down to the clay mat, it doesn't go any deeper. Therefore, it preserves your groundwater from contamination. The white layer above that is the high-density polyethylene. It comes to us in rolls, kind of like rolls of carpet, and we roll it down. Then a machine comes through and double welds it, and we always test it to make sure there's not leaks. Only on the bottom of the cell, you'll see the drain net. It's just a small area at the bottom where your garbage juice, known as leachate, can go and collect in a certain area to be pushed to the indented portion to the left, and that's our leachate pond where we can monitor the leachate and control it and purify it before it goes anywhere. It doesn't contaminate your groundwater. And this kind of shows you the process of how we lay down the liner. So if you were ever to fly over Salt Lake City, you would see our landfill, and it would be very apparent because of our liner. You can see it from the airplane. And this kind of shows you what the clay mat looks like, the top left, and the drain net at the bottom left. And this is a GoPro visualization just to give you an idea of the scope that we do for your landfill cell. One cell will take 4 years just to dig. So that's constant from the time we open to the time we close, 6 days a week, digging just to dig the cell. It's 120 feet deep. If you were to put the Statue of Liberty in our empty cell, only the tip of her flame would be showing. That's how deep it is. It's about 4 football fields wide, 5 football fields long. So that gives you a scope of how large this is just to manage our waste. Now let's talk about emergency debris. We stockpile the dirt. The question was, what do you do with all that dirt? We stockpile the dirt every single night. We have to, by regulation, put 6 inches of dirt on top of the garbage. So if you were ever to be able to cut a landfill cell open, you would see garbage, dirt, garbage, dirt, garbage, dirt. For a few different reasons. It's to make it a sanitary landfill. It's to keep the smell down for our neighbors, which they highly appreciate. It's to avoid getting the garbage out and becoming litter in your neighborhoods. And it also keeps certain vectors or critters away from the landfill. So it's all for good reason. But I wanted to switch the focus right now to emergency debris management, which is a completely different area of study. We have to look at what is regulated by the Federal Emergency Management Administration, FEMA. And in doing so, we've worked very closely with the Utah Division of Emergency Management, and they have showed us what they have on their plan. We've showed them what we have on our plan, and we're just coordinating efforts. This isn't just a Trans-Jordan effort. It's not just a Sandy effort. This is going to take everyone, all hands on deck. We're all going to have to work together and communicate across different fields, different, even counties, to get the debris out. And the debris is part of the recovery plan. Once any major catastrophic event hits our valley, we'll have to work together to recover from it. But this particular presentation is in regards to an 8.0 earthquake. So we would have debris prioritization. Our first and foremost concern is safety and sustainability of lives that are impacted in the populated area that was affected by the catastrophe. So the very first people who are going to be allowed through our gate as Trans-Jordan landfill are going to be the trucks that helped clear the roads so that emergency vehicles can get through, and so they also have access to critical places such as hospitals. We are shutting down the landfill to public use, and that may seem like something that would be counterintuitive. You would say, wait a minute, I want to get rid of my debris. You and everyone else, and if we tried to serve everyone, we couldn't serve anyone. So our first priority is clearing those roads so we can save lives. Our second priority is going to be stabilizing and restoring critical infrastructure. And we'll be looking at the different waste that you have, and I'll talk to you later about how to sort your waste, but we will accept pre-sorted waste in qualifying trucks that are bringing it out to us before we will open up to the public. And finally, support recovery, and that's when we've got all the critical debris through the gates, and we can allow citizens to bring us their own trash. So in the meantime, we are highly emphasizing the importance of having a temporary debris management area, and those you'd have locally. In one city, you may have a few of them, but every city should have at least one, and that's something that you need to check ahead of time and make sure that it qualifies based on the regulations that FEMA has put forth. I saw a hand raised over here.
So does that mean if there's, a major emergency, when you say debris, does that mean like your regular garbage? You're not going to be picking up garbage?
That's a good question. I'm not referring to the regular garbage. So your curbside garbage is completely separate from emergency debris. FEMA will not reimburse for your regular garbage. They will reimburse for the things that were damaged and destroyed because of a catastrophic event. So I'll show you a slide coming up that will tell you how to put your very assorted garbage out on the curb that was because of, for example, the earthquake, but your regular garbage is completely separate from that. And we're looking at ways of having our landfill open to regular municipal solid waste, which is your curbside garbage, and a separate entrance for the emergency debris so we can keep them separated. And we're highly recommending that there's debris removal contracts because you're going to pre-sort your waste. They won't pick it all up in one collection. It's going to be sorted and go to different dispositions. So meaning it's going to go where it's going to end up. We don't want to transport it more than once. And of course, communications. In the event of an emergency or any sort of catastrophic event, I will be serving as the public information officer for Trans-Jordan. I will make sure you have the right message at the right time and it will be in the right hands. But the purpose of me being here tonight is to let you know ahead of time, just prepare yourself for this, and I have great suggestions for you as well. In order to get reimbursement from FEMA, you have to meet this criteria. Just to read off a few of them: eliminate immediate threat to lives, public health, and safety. And that's what I was referring to when I said they have to clear the roads. There's still people alive. We have to get them out of the rubble. They have priority. They have priority through our gate for trash or emergency debris. And eliminate immediate threats of significant damage to improve public or private property. Finally, ensure economic recovery of the affected areas. We want to benefit the community at large. We want you to recover as fast as you possibly can, and in doing so, we have to stick to this plan and know the plan and get the word out to the citizens. So let's go over the different categories of debris, because you're going to see a map basically telling you how to sort your debris after a catastrophic event. One of them is construction and demolition. This has to do with buildings that collapse, anything that involves your brick, your drywall, just things that you've created to build your structures. That's construction, demolition, debris. Of course, personal and property, household items, just the things that you fill your house with, basically. Hazardous waste and household hazardous waste, we encourage you as citizens, this is what just came out from the Salt Lake County Health Department. This is a list of dates and areas where you can drop off your hazardous waste. We recommend that ahead of time, go through your garage, go through the areas where you store your chemicals. Do not stockpile them. Please go through them, bring them to us for free or to one of these drop-off events. It's so much better to get rid of it when you don't need it than to wait for a catastrophic event and try to get rid of it then. And white goods involves things like your washing machine, your dishwasher, your dryer, just the electronics you have at your house that are your appliances. It's very important to note that you have got to have the Freon in your refrigerator and your air conditioning units evacuated, or else there's very stiff penalties from the Environmental Protection Agency. So be sure that those are disposed of correctly. And electronic waste. What we're trying to, yes. Who will be picking it up? It will be the ones that are in charge of picking up the white goods. No, as citizens, you don't need to. In fact, if you come to our landfill and say, I already took the Freon out, we will still charge you for Freon evacuation. We have it professionally done, and it's certified that it was properly evacuated. So wherever you bring it off for its final disposal, that's who is in charge of evacuating the Freon. Good question. Now, diversion means we need to just push these items away from the landfill. We wouldn't be serving you as a city, Sandy, if we were to just fill up with emergency debris. As soon as we're full, we're not of benefit to you. You're getting your trash taken care of at $14 a ton, the lowest rate in the nation. And we're going to try to keep our landfill viable and active for you by diverting concrete, bricks, shingles, drywall, and scrap metal away from the landfill in the event of a catastrophe. And this is the version that FEMA puts out for how you would clear out your house. So say an earthquake were to hit tomorrow. You'd want to, when you're ready to recover, you've accounted for all of your family members, you've got your food, water, and shelter in place. When you start working on rebuilding and recovering, they want you to separate your normal waste, which is there to the left with the black. That's just what you normally take out to the trash can. That does not go with the ones that are green and on. So green is your vegetation. So anything that tipped over, if your tree came down, if anything in your yard that is vegetative, that gets its own category. The construction and demolition that we talked about earlier, the white goods and appliances, and electronics, and then separate all of these, including the household hazardous waste. So those are the different categories, and you want to keep them all separate. They don't want them bagged. They don't want them covered up. When you bring them out to the curb, they ask that you keep them loose. They have to see them because the contractors who come to pick it up from your house have to know which category it is. So this is what we will not take. Go ahead. Absolutely. We've got copies we can print off for you. And I know Jeffrey Mulcahy has them as well. So I will put him in charge of that. He's giving me the thumbs up. Thank you.
You're saying you're going to get this out to us. Is it going to be after the disaster or before the disaster? Because
It's going to be
after the disaster, some of us may not have ways to access it.
well. To be honest with you, we're giving you basic information right now, so you have available that if something does happen, I'm going to need to segregate it, but we're going to need to get it out because it's going to take time to get your debris picked up. For example, if there's something happened today, it could take weeks or months to clear the city out. So it's going to take some time and patience on everybody's behalf. And there will be ample opportunity to get out, even if we have employees from street to street. And they'll be doing that after
reaching out to our community coordinators, there's 30 communities in the city. We will use them as resources as well too to get the information out. So I think there's a lot of ways of doing it. What Lesha's showing is good guidance. That's what we're going to train for. But when something does happen, we will have very specific things what you're going to do as far as citizens to aid us in helping you clear the community.
Excellent. Well said, Paul Browning. And I want to also reaffirm that we want to follow the guidelines by FEMA. If we fail you in following the guidelines by FEMA and you have to dip into your city budget, we aren't serving you as your landfill. And so you can count on us to work with the FEMA professionals that come out in the event of a catastrophe and go based on their guidelines. If it contradicts anything that I'm showing or sharing here, we will keep you informed, and we will just make sure we follow their guidelines so that you can have that reimbursement. So currently what their reimbursement is suggesting is that you do divert construction demolition away from municipal solid waste landfills. We are so protective of your groundwater for good reason, because there's things in your trash that you do not want seeping down into the soil, into your groundwater. However, things like your bricks and your concrete, that does not belong in the landfill. And it's good that we save the landfill space, and it's overkill to put it in a municipal solid waste landfill. So construction demolition, hazardous waste, household hazardous waste, and soil, mud, and sand will not be allowed into the landfill after a catastrophic event. We will take electronic waste, but they will go elsewhere. We're not the final spot for them, so it's better for cities to have a contract with places that do recycle electronic waste ahead of time if possible. White goods we will accept, and personal property and household items. We don't currently, nor do we plan on taking animal mortalities, liquid waste, medical waste, or asbestos. That's just not in our contract for your landfill. And if you have any questions, I've left my contact information. Also, I wanted to take a brief moment just to invite all of you to come out to Transjordan. If you ever want to form a group and come out for a tour, or if you have any questions, please feel free to email me or call my number. I've got it up on the screen right now, and I'd be happy to get you a copy of this presentation. Questions?
Sandy Senior Center on 9400 South and 13 will take, they have a drop-off to take waste. I think glass included.
So you're talking about a glass recycling drop-off?
I don't know what all they do, but I don't think it's the electrical waste.
Yes, they'll clearly say on the bins what they take. And if you want to recycle your electronic waste, we do take it for free at Transjordan if it's from your household.
Okay, so my next question is, the facility on 700 West that had the fire and now they're in temporary lodging, and we used to take our paint and stuff like that there. Is that going to be remodeled, or is that where we're going to go?
That would be a question for Paul, because Paul got displaced. Absolutely.
In general terms, before we get to the presentation, at the senior center, we have a glass bin up there for glass drop-off. Also at 7th West, off of 90th South at Public Works, there's still a glass drop-off there. Alicia alluded to the household hazardous waste collection with Sandy. Those will be at the amphitheater, and I don't have the dates with you. I think the first one's May the 10th, from 7 to 10 a.m. They'll take all your household hazardous waste and electronics. So something to plan, and the biggest thing when talking in Citizen Corps, even with emergency management in Sandy City, it's planning and preparation. So if you have items, stockpile.
I'll just say one more thing. I'm putting in a plug for our Facebook page. Transjordan Landfill has a Facebook page, and that was our very last post, was on the drop-off for household hazardous waste and other material. And any more questions for me? I can speak to the or what would you call it, the biosolids, but I can speak to your household waste. So that's a separate contract, and that comes out of the city budget because that's just your typical household waste that you'd be producing if there weren't a catastrophic event. And you'd have to talk to another expert about the biosolids because that's not my area of expertise. I apologize.
And that's something we would talk to the sewer district about. Maybe I can get them to come at a future time and talk about that very topic.
One more question.
What's the expectancy, and have you done research on other cities, how does it take to actually clean up a big mess after a big disaster like Houston and stuff? Like, are we expected to have our trash on our street for a couple months, weeks? I'm sure it depends on the disaster, but what have you seen the turnaround on average big disaster?
In Houston, we've seen it taking months because what they were saying with their debris, it was the equivalent of 1 or 2 roll-off containers per household. And so to get that off the street, it just takes time. You have to pick the areas and let them know we'll be here from this date to this date, and just realize that not all of it will leave at the same time because all of it is sorted and going to different places. Absolutely. It's a good question, but it completely depends. And also with the earthquake that we are considering, that's going to affect the roadways. We have to form different routes to get our debris from point A to point B. I'll turn the time over to Paul Browning, and thanks so much for your time.
Good evening. As I poked my head up over there before, I just want to reintroduce myself. My name's Paul Browning. I'm the Assistant Public Works Director for the City of Sandy in the Public Works Department. And as the slide shows, we're going to go over debris management tonight, too. And some of the items Lesha covered, so we made tag team on some of them. I'm not going to dwell on some of the items that Lesha covered, but it's important to understand that we have a partnership. Sandy City has ownership, partial ownership, 1/6 ownership of the Transjordan landfill. We're on the member of the board of directors out there, so we work closely with the general manager and his staff at the Transjordan landfill to go over debris management issues. And this is kind of a partnership, so I'm glad I'm here tonight with Lesha to kind of share Sandy's perspective and also to see how Transjordan's perspective is there as well, too. One of the questions that came up talked about, sewer system. Obviously, Sandy City doesn't run the sewer system. There's 4 sewer districts in the city, and what happens if those don't work? I think it's a great question, and I know we've talked a little bit about it at emergency management training meetings, planning meetings, but again, getting someone here would be beneficial. But my wife calls herself a prepper, and she has these portable kits she's purchased that break down biosolids if you can't flush or have water to do that as well too. So I think there's things that you can do personally as a family or community to take care of individual family members. But the larger issue as far as damage to the sewer system, that's important, and I think we do need to address that and answer your concerns and everybody's concerns when it comes to that, because that's really going to impact the community as far as getting back on your feet, and also you don't want germs and diseases to be run rampant in the community, especially when you're trying to get back on your feet. To get in the beginning of my presentation, I'm sure a lot of you are Sandy City residents and you've seen your bulk waste card in the mail. And the reason why I allude to that is our bulk waste program is kind of our test program for debris management. We do fall and spring bulk waste collection, and it takes about 10 to 12 weeks in the fall and the spring. So we're practicing it on a small scale, but it kind of gives you some idea of what debris management's all about. Because even on the card, and it's funny, we get a lot of calls from citizens that they don't read all the detail on the card right here, but the card spells it out pretty clearly. And this is what would happen in a disaster. We're going to spell out clearly how you need to place your debris curbside so they can be picked up by our contractors. But the same thing as well, too. I point back to this, too. It just tells you the do's and don'ts, how to set your materials out there. If you got, tree limbs and things like that. We say cut them up in the 4-foot lengths and separate them so they're very easy to pick up. Don't pile things next to street lights or trees, so for easier pickup. But again, I bring this to your attention because on a smaller scale, that's what our debris management program is all about. But let me get right into it right now because this is a very important topic. But as you can see with debris management, it's vital to the recovery process for public health and safety. So we need to have a plan in place to get the community back up and running again. The goals of the program, you want to reduce the risk of injuries because with a lot of things out there, a lot of broken glass, you got timber out there, buildings that could have come down, attractive nuisance for people to get in there to get hurt, so we want to reduce the risk of personal injury. We also want to minimize preventive environmental impacts too. Lesha alluded to it as well too. We don't want to put hazardous chemicals or just dump everything in a big pile up next to the curb of your house and say, okay, Sandy City, come get it. There needs to be some order to this process so it's orderly picked up. I'll get to your question in a second. And then the final one, like Lesha mentioned right there, conserve disposal capability. We want to make sure we don't just want to put everything in the ground, put dirt, 6 feet of dirt on it, call it good, and walk away from it. We want to conserve our disposal capability by managing the waste and putting it in the proper location. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, say this happens in winter, and this is frustrating to me, and I see this often happening. People aren't saving their downed limbs, things like that, because they get frustrated at the no burn days and all that. So I'm just wondering, does the city, what's the city's stand on, if there was a major emergency, we have no heat, no electricity, that wood, can we use it to burn, or is there gonna be like enforcement on no burning, or, because we could use that, you talk about, reducing your waste and everything, but
That's a very good question. And in a disaster situation, we talk about having your 72 or 96-hour kits. I think if you have wood right there and you need to take care of your family, you're taking care of your family. I think all those other issues will be addressed in the long. We're not going to come out and say everybody start burning wood and things like that, but people are going to do it to take care of the family for their livelihood and to stay alive. So I don't think you're going to see any issues with that at all, or fines and things like that. But with time, as the recovery process progresses, those things will be addressed and maybe curtailed as time permits and things as we move ahead in the recovery process. But in the first couple of days after an event, it's going to be everybody needs to take care of themselves. So I think you're going to be able to burn just to provide that heat and warmth for your family, because if it's zero out, your number one goal is your family and your children. So we're not going to stop you. No. Well, I think day in and day out probably, but in a disaster, it's a disaster, and everybody's caring for each other and doing what's right to take care of fellow human beings. So I think that's what's going to happen. So again, I'm not an expert on the air quality side, but obviously you're going to take care of your family. But I want to talk a little bit about the debris management cycle. And it's interesting, I haven't got off the first block up there, but pre-disaster planning. That's one of the things in Sandy City with Jeff Mulcahy. We have a strong emergency management planning team, and every month we meet, and we're not talking debris management every month, but it's one of the topics that comes up in the course of the year when we do exercise, we look at our plan and planning ahead. So pre-disaster planning is something that's an ongoing thing, and you always look at your plan, step back, look at it, and then test it through tabletop exercises or functional exercises and update it. After that, when the disaster happens, the earthquake or windstorm, tornado, whatever it may be, we want to scope the mission. Sandy City, in the Public Works Department, we split up the community into 20 areas. So we have employees identified to go out each of the 20 areas to look for debris, report back in so we get a good handle on what's going on in the community. So scoping is very important. Alicia mentioned this as well too. Emergency debris management. We need to get resources, police, first responders to scenes. We need to clear our roadways. So that's Public Works Department. Our main goal is to figure out what's out there, scope it, and then get the roads open for the first responders. And then debris removal. We need to get the word out, tell you how to segregate the items in front of your house, get our contractors in there to get the items moved to the proper location. And then, like, we don't want to put it in the ground and bury everything, so we want to look at debris reduction and even recycling. And then finally, debris disposal, and then hopefully everything's back to normal at that point, and then we go start with the planning process all over again. Lesha mentioned this as well too. There's a lot of guidance from the Federal Emergency Management Agency as far as debris guidance. There's courses. I've taken the course about 12, 13 years ago on debris management. There's a lot of detail in there, a lot of good information, and I know they have little workshops, so maybe in the future there could be a little workshop for our emergency management team or even for the Citizen Corps to talk about personal debris management. Of course, there's always other regulations in the state and federal government when it comes to environmental issues, and with historic Sandy, historic properties over here too, as we're moving debris out of the historic area of the city, we have to be mindful of some of the things in that area too, so we have to look at these regulations and adjust accordingly. Again, part of the planning process is you have to identify debris types and forecast amounts. Again, windstorm, you look at what's Sandy vulnerable to, snowstorms, heavy blizzards, windstorms in the form of possibly a tornado like the one in Salt Lake. How many years ago was that now? 15 years ago plus. And even earthquakes probably our biggest one there. And I just threw in just a for instance up there. Last year we had a very heavy spring bulk waste collection. And those of you in Sandy who had piles in front of your house that lasted 2, 3, or 4 weeks, we had last April, we had a huge, I think it was around Easter time, we had a huge snowstorm and had a lot of downed trees throughout the city that compounded our regular collection. But all in all, we picked up about over 5,000 tons of debris, and that's equated to about 36,000 cubic yards of material picked up by city crews, taken to the landfill, either into the landfill itself or put into the greenway compost operation out there. Other ways of forecasting debris, FEMA has a program called HAZUS, which is good for estimating. It's computer modeling using geographic information system information in your community to determine types of damages you could see as a result of an earthquake. And Jeff, I don't know if we've done a HAZUS model in Sandy for ages. I think it was introduced to it about 18 years ago, but it might be something good as a team. We can probably rerun that again and kind of give us some good information as far as, again, for planning. This is out of a FEMA handbook, just talks about different debris streams right there, but if you look at probably past halfway down there, it says earthquakes, shows you the type of debris stream from an earthquake, construction and demolition debris, personal property, household goods, hazardous waste, household hazardous waste. Hazardous waste would probably be the larger companies and businesses who have issues with that. But again, the household hazardous waste, white goods, and Alicia addressed that as well too, and even soil, mud, and sand. So this gives you some idea what to plan for when you're looking at how you're going to move material out of your community. Again, in the planning process, what's our current capacity for debris removal? Alicia gave a great presentation on what Transjordan has available there too, but one thing that she talked about several times during the presentation, Transjordan has a finite life left in it, and it could fill out and close down, and you're, well, what's the city going to do? And we have a plan in place. Again, working with Transjordan, we have another landfill that Transjordan, several other landfills in Utah County, Salt Lake County, and Davis County. They purchased, we came together and purchased the Bayview landfill, which is down in Alberta, and I'll show you more information on that in a minute, but we have another resource for landfilling in the area that will give us a long-term collection capability or drop-off capability. There's also the Salt Lake Valley landfill, which is run by Salt Lake County. That's up on California Avenue, and I put HHW facility on there as well too, because Salt Lake County Health Department is going to be very instrumental in getting hazardous waste out of our community. And they have a large processing facility at the California landfill facility to help pack these items and ship them off for their final destinations for final disposal. So that's going to be a critical element in this as well. As far as removing debris from our city streets, obviously our Public Works Department is going to be out there front and center. If we need help from the other departments, Public Utilities, Parks and Recreation, we have other trucks available to help clear our streets. We also have Salt Lake County. They're going to be one of our key things. When we have our Emergency Operations Center set up, we're going to be communicating and have a liaison, Matt, correct? I haven't met you yet, but he'll be our liaison at the county EOC, so if we need additional resources, we can reach out to our county for support and get those resources redirected to us to help with debris removal as well. The bottom two items right there, Waste Management's our hauler, so we can still work with them with their equipment and dumpsters for debris removal. And we also have contracts we're working with various, the big construction companies like Geneva and Staker. They have some heavy-duty trucks and front-end loaders. We can use them as well, too, to help pick these items up out of our community. Again, the last two items, using Waste Management and even contractors, is going to be key in getting federal reimbursement back into the community for picking up items in front of your home. This is a different picture of the Transjordan landfill. This is from our Sandy GIS, and you can see the yellow area on there kind of shows you the area of the Transjordan landfill. This is off Bacchus Highway, which is 7200 west at about 103rd south, and it's in South Jordan on the west side of the valley there too. And there's 50 acres identified. We have an agreement in place with Transjordan to have a temporary disposal site for our waste. And there's 50 acres identified adjacent to, it's Transjordan property, it's a leased property, but it's adjacent to Transjordan, and we would bring our waste there as our, and again, I have to emphasize, temporary disposal site. So if it's out in front of your house, you're sitting there going, good, I don't have to worry about it anymore. However, we have to worry about it because we need to make sure it's processed and moved to the proper location. So we have an agreement in place with Transjordan to have a processing site for temporary storage. The key thing about having a temporary storage site is you have environmental, safety, and logistical considerations with it. You want to, obviously, if you have items stored there, even hazardous chemicals, you want to make sure you're not polluting the environment because there's no liners or anything on there. It's just a temporary storage site. So we need to make sure that we're environmentally conscious when we set up a temporary storage site. So when we're done processing these items, we have to make sure that the soils and the waters adjacent or even at that site are returned to their normal condition afterwards. So it's a long-term proposition to deal with that. Also, we want pick the site that's limited access. You don't want something that's wide open where everybody can drive in from all different angles and drop off stuff right there. So you want controlled access to the site, and the site adjacent to Transjordan is perfect for that. And obviously, like I mentioned, when you're done and everything's moved out of there, you want to return it to its regular condition. What do you do at a temporary storage site? They're called temporary storage sites or even reduction sites. You have, basically, you can see this situation right here. You come in where their tower is on the left, and you can loop through there, and it allows you to categorize your debris. You know, you got clean vegetative waste, and this drawing right here shows air curtain burners, like if you're going to burn your green waste. I don't think we would do that. We would probably use tub grinders to mulch our clean green waste. Metals drop off. A lot of times your white goods or metals could be recycled, so those things would probably be taken to that area right there. Construction and demolition debris, C&D, would be dropped off at a different area. So that whole 50-acre site would give us an opportunity to bring all the waste right there, segregate it by commodity type, for lack of a better word, and allow us to use other resources to move it into another area. I know we talked about construction and demolition debris. There are several landfills here in the valley that do construction and demolition debris. I know there's the Mountain View landfill, which is adjacent to the California Avenue landfill. They take construction and demolition debris. So that's a site there we can bring those items to, and that's run by a subsidiary of Waste Management. Also, the North Point disposal site, they have a landfill down in Fairfield, which is a C&D landfill, so we could take all of our construction and demolition debris down there. So that's how we would take care of that. Again, there's another company adjacent to Transjordan, Bland, I think they have a drop-off for aggregates, like soils, which can't go into Transjordan, but there are companies that take aggregates, soils, as well as crushed concrete and asphalt, so we could bring those there. So back to the temporary storage site, this gives us an opportunity to bring items in, segregate it, manage it, that's why it's debris management, and then get it to its final resting place, and then to return the site to its original condition. I talked about the Bayview landfill. It's a little star up there on the right shows Transjordan. Bayview's southwest of Utah Lakes, about 43 miles on Redwood Road, or you can take I-15 down to US 6 in Santa Quin and head west and head out there, and there's a decent landfill. You know, it gives us a lot of future capability. You know, like again, going back to Lesha's presentation, with a finite life left at Transjordan, Bayview is going to give us, as Salt Lake Valley as well as Utah County, 80-plus years of disposal capability down there. Right now, they're developing 640 acres of the landfill. They still have another 650 acres to develop, and they've just scratched the surface. They're only using approximately not even a third of the first 640 acres. So there's a lot of storage capability for waste long-term. So we do have a long-term solution for waste in our area. Okay, I bored you with the planning side. What's Sandy going to do when something happens? Scoping and emergency debris clearance. That's our commitment to the citizens of Sandy City. We're going to scope, like I mentioned, we have 20 communities, public works communities. We're getting our employees out there, determine what's out there. We're going to get feedback from the community coordinators, probably through the EOC, consolidate all that information, understand what the total scope of the problem is, and then push for emergency debris removal. We've got to get police and fire, first responders in there, water supply, power, gas, maybe even the sewer. Emergency shelters, they're going to be operational. We need to get those accessible as well too, so we'll be clearing those. Restoring communication and distribution of water, ice, food to victims, even setting up pods at some of the parks. I think Jeff's covered pods with this group. So we want to make sure you can access those things. So that's our number one job. The big one's going to be communications, because as you look at the first sentence up there, residents typically want debris to be removed as quickly as possible and may resort to illegal burning, dumping, and other improper management methods. And that's going to be true in a widespread disaster. So it's important for Sandy City, and we have a strong communications team in the city, to get the word out to the citizens. We need to let our communications team know and get the word out with whatever the means may be. TV, press, website, Facebook, tweets, whatever the issue may be on social media. We need to get the word out on how we're going to collect these items and let you know the timetable, how you should segregate items for collection, and just get the word out to the community. So this is going to be key right there, but in any situation, depending on the scope, patience. It's going to take patience on behalf of the citizens, and even patience on our part to try to respond to the needs, because you can't satisfy everybody's needs at one time. So patience and communication. You know, in my time, in my prior life when I was in the Navy and everything, communications was key in every exercise that we did, and it's true today, whatever we do, communications, talking back and forth, getting feedback from the citizens, city communicating to you and what you need to do. So this is very critical to the success of our community and restoring vital services. This is a similar one, what Lesha was showing. I've seen this one that several trainings they had before, and I kind of liked it. It's from the Times-Picayune in New Orleans, Louisiana. Obviously, this shows a hurricane scenario of how to put debris out there, but again, the same principle like Lesha was showing, shows garbage on the left, green waste, your white goods, hazardous waste, and e-waste, just how to place it in front of your house so the contractors can pick it up. The biggest thing I want to stress, though, in this type of scenario is our contractors are going to be cleaning up stuff. We're going to communicate to you and say, this is where you should put your items and how you should place it. Our contractors will pick it up. The biggest thing that's going to come up is, what about private property? What about damaged houses? Is the city going to come on there and clear our house up if it's leveled? What's going to happen in that situation? And those are good questions, too. And I would encourage you to look at your insurance policies, Because after a disaster that impacts a lot of your homes and you lose, you lose your personal effects at your house, look at your insurance policy. What is it going to cover? How are they going to respond to you? Because they may clear a lot of that stuff on your property and move it for you, and because you're paying your premium for that policy. So that's an important consideration separate from this. But all in all, if we're gonna get involved, and after the insurance adjusters have been there and looked at everything, and you're starting to put stuff curbside, again, that communication is going to be key to show you where to place it and how we're going to pick it up, and we'll just move forward from there as well too. So I think patience is the key, and we really need to work together to be effective at this. Yes, sir.
Something you can't move, it's too big, crashes on your house, or something that you can't move. Do you guys pick that up, or are we reliable for that communication?
It's going to be on a case-by-case basis, because a lot of situations, something fell on your house, your insurance company is going to help take care of that. I do know if there's a disaster and, say, a tree's on the house and fire's responding, fire has a heavy rescue capability to help move things if they're looking for people or victims in the house as well too. But it's going to be critical in the rebuild, because the city's not going to be responsible to go on the private property to clear all the debris off there. We're taking care of everything that's on the backside of curb or even in the gutter area as well too. So I think that's going to be critical to think about, and that's why I encourage you to look at your insurance policies to see what would happen if there was an earthquake and you needed debris removed. How are they going to assist you? Because when something happens, the city's going to be there, FEMA's going to be there, and we're going to have every insurance adjuster in the country coming in here to help their clients out to get well. So I think all these things are important to consider. But in simple view, this is how the city's going to help you get debris out from in front of your house. Yes, sir.
That sounds a little different than what I wrote on FEMA's website, where they said that they will reimburse jurisdictions for going on private property and removing personal housing, that as long as there's a public risk involved.
And that's correct if there's a public risk involved, but the public risk would be, let's say someone has no insurance and the house is collapsed and there's no one there. The city would need, through our building department, at that point would go in there. In that case, it's a public safety issue. They would come in there and take care of that. But I'm talking in general terms. In my house in Sandy right now, if I have earthquake insurance on there. If something would happen, something's damaged, I'm going to contact USAA, and hopefully they'll take care of me. Yes, Jeff. We like, well, I think residents should work together to consolidate piles. Instead of having 10 houses and 10 refrigerators in front of there, put them all together. It becomes kind of tricky, because I know during bulk waste, a lot of people like to pile stuff in one area and it just grows, and then vehicles can't get through that area. So I think, to your point, Jeff, I think residents should work together to try to share their storage area in front of their house as far as where they're stacking stuff. Especially, if you're trying to put 6 or 7 commodities in front of your house, it might be easier to put, white goods in front of my house. My neighbor Bill, you might want to put hazardous waste and electronics at another house right there. So again, residents working together, following the guidelines that the city puts out in communication is going to be key to help streamline the collection process and kind of get it in one area. Yes, ma'am. And then this one, it kind of alludes to it. I put my glasses on. It talks about share piles with neighbors. So I think that's going to Jeff's point there as well too, because some homes, if you're on a circle and you got like a small frontage up there, we have a hard enough time putting snow in the proper area when there's cars out there, and you got a little frontage. I think neighbors working together is going to be key. But You know, one of the things that always scares us, and I should have talked about it when I had that one slide up there, is emergency debris removal during a major snow event. I think one of the things that doesn't keep us up at night, but it's one of the things that's troubling, is if you have a major snowstorm and an earthquake. And we were not joking about it the other day, but we were at another team meeting, and someone was talking about that's the greatest fear, is something like that would happen, you know, the double whammy, so to speak. But nonetheless, I think we're a resilient community, and working together, communicating, we will get the job done, but a little bit of patience would help. Any other questions for either myself or for Lesha before I turn the time back over to Jeff? Yes, sir.
The question that was asked was, how much is recycling reducing the total waste stream to Transjordan? And recycling right now in Utah, we're pushing to get at the national level of recycling. Recycling is something that diverts useful material away from the landfill. We don't want to bury useful material. We want to save that space for things that belong in the landfill. And currently, Transjordan's working on an initiative called Be Bright, Recycle Right, where we've got the entire Salt Lake County on the same list of recycling, and any updates that happen in recycling, we want to get the word out and share the same message so no one's confused. In debris management, it's huge, because if you think about the concrete we're going to have, the bricks we're going to have, it's going to be substantial. It's not just about protecting the material, but also protecting your valuable landfill space and keeping useful material in the cycle. So it's a circular economy rather than a linear. So will that answer your question? Awesome. Any others? All right. Awesome. Thanks.
Let me get this out of here without breaking it.
Thank you.
A bulk waste card?
You have to live in Sandy City.
I'll give you one.
Don't get me wrong, we love White City too, and they're part of our plan. So, any other questions? They're here. All right.
So you said you haven't really forecasted quite a while.
The hazardous, right?
Doing so, when you did do it, do we have enough landfill?
Because, you know, having lived in California, earthquakes there, our houses should pretty much survive. It focused on Salt Lake City for the obvious reasons. A lot of damage. I'll just say, I know they have an earthquake person at the state that kind of oversees the hazards, I believe. But I think it'd be interesting to run and then share it with this group at some point in the future.
Yeah, it'd be good information. Anything else? Well, was this better meeting in here than it was upstairs? No. Cozier upstairs. Actually, I was just thinking about that. It's like, because when we're upstairs, I get to shake your hands and stuff like that. Now it's like you're an audience. It's
I'll shake your hand.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Paul. I'm sorry. Well, thank you all for coming tonight. We had a huge group. I'm very impressed. I appreciate you guys, your interest, and thank you for coming out. Teresa, how you doing?
You?
Good to see you.